Welcome to a return to oneness. My name is Eddie, and I help people open their hearts. Today's discussion is Learning to Master Your Triggers, Part 10, Step 8, Declare Freedom. Most are familiar with the founding document of the United States. Known as the Declaration of Independence, it was the document which proclaimed the right of independence in order to govern the nation free from the tyranny of the English monarchy. The very first sentence of the Declaration states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." As the name of the document suggests, it is a declaration. In this case, it is a declaration of independence. The Founding Fathers understood the power of making this declaration. Yet, what is a declaration? What is the energy contained within it? And why is making a declaration of freedom the eighth and last step in learning to master your triggers? As with other words that have been looked at, the same thing applies to this word. You need only to look at the implication of the word declare to find its energy pattern. Besides carrying the meaning to make known formally or officially that most are familiar with, the word also has the meaning affirm. The implication, then, of the word declare, as it is being used here, is found in the origin of the word affirm, which is the Latin word affirmare, and has the meaning to restore. Therefore, to declare freedom is to proclaim that your freedom has been restored. Yet, what is the freedom being discussed? To the forefathers of the United States, freedom meant independence. And in many respects, true freedom is the independence found when the past no longer controls your future experiences. For freedom is not being bound or controlled by anything. However, when you are triggered, you are not free. For you are bound by something in the past, which creates the trigger. And whatever that something is, whether it is a grievance, an emotional trauma that hasn't been healed, a faulty belief, or a judgment made many years ago, it nevertheless binds you to the past, robbing you of peace and joy. Remember, the framers of the founding document detailed certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They railed against what they believed to be tyrannous acts that kept them from living free. Come now to recognize that each time you are triggered, you are bound by the inner tyrant known as the ego. For the ego does not want you free. And since the ego rests within your mind, there is a part of you that doesn't desire freedom. But why is this? In order to understand the answer, you must first recognize what the ego is. In truth, it is nothing. It doesn't even exist. It is nothing more than the false identity that you have come to believe yourself to be. But this identity is not real. It is not who or what you are in truth. Therefore, always keep this in mind. What is false and will never be true. and what is true has never changed. Once you understand that only what is true is real, because it is eternal, then the aforementioned statement can be heard as, what is false and will never be real, and what is eternal has never changed. Realize that nothing creates more terror within the egoic mind than the thought that it isn't real, for it wants more than anything to be real, to be eternal, and it pursues its wishes tyrannically, where it is the master and you but its slave. Yet its desire is not the will of God, for God did not will you to be apart from Him, living a life of misery and conflict. Do you yet understand what this means? In easy to understand terms, it means but this: the ego keeps you bound to the grievances, the judgments, and the pain from the past, so that you will not discover the truth of yourself. Because it knows that once you remember the truth of who and what you are, you will withdraw your allegiance to it. For the ego knows that you will brush it aside and run home. Never forget, the ego does not wish for you life, liberty, which is freedom, nor happiness. Rather, it wishes for you to remain in conflict. For in conflict, it is guaranteed that it will live yet another day. The central question is, what do you choose? Do you choose the ego, the false identity, or the truth of yourself? One is powerless, while the other has been given all power under the heaven and earth. One is meaningless and is therefore without value, yet the other was given its meaning by God, who also set its worth. While you may choose to deny what you are in truth, you cannot change it. For what God creates is eternal, and what He gives cannot be taken away. Denied, yes, but it cannot be taken from you. It is forever yours, since that was God's desire and will. Therefore, why would you choose the unreal over the real unless you truly believe that this world, with its misery, pain, and conflict, is more real than heaven? However, the time has come for you to remember the truth. If it wasn't your time to remember, you would not have listened to this discussion. For something in you said, there has to be a better way. And there is. Rediscover yourself. Come to know of yourself again. Most have heard the following story before, found in Luke, chapter 17, verses 20 and 21. It is written, when Jesus was asked by the Pharisees, the religious leaders of his time, when the kingdom of God should come, Jesus answered them rather cryptically when he said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation, neither shall they say, lo here, or lo there. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Therefore, if heaven is within you, then you are heaven. For what else did God create? Recall, the very first verse of Genesis states, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. As such, both exist within your mind, yet you believe they are somehow separate from each other, when in truth, They are one. Till now you thought earth was outside of you, and heaven, if you believed it existed at all, was only obtained after death, but only if you were found worthy. But that is not what the Master taught. He said heaven is within you, for it is you. There is no separation. Furthermore, heaven is not a place, as many imagine it to be. Instead, heaven is a state of mind. It is your natural state of being. And only when you live in and from the heavenly realm, which is nothing more than living in and from Christ consciousness, are you living true life, true freedom, and can pursue true happiness. What then is true happiness? The answer is truly a simple one, for true happiness, true joy, is found in the complete giving of oneself. It is found in the sharing of oneself. In other words, true joy is had when you are extending yourself just as God extends or gives of Himself. And just like God gives His love to all, you must do the same. For if you deny your love to anyone or anything for any reason, then you will feel deprived of it yourself. And to feel deprived of love is to believe you are without it. This is the belief in separation. It is what has created the thought system of lack, need, and loss. These contribute to being bound to the thought system of survival. However, survival isn't living freely. In truth, survival isn't living at all. It is merely existing, trying to make it from one day to the next. And this is exactly where the ego wants you, for it wants you in survival mode. It recognizes that if you aren't struggling to survive, then you might stumble upon the truth. And it cannot have you do that, for that would be its demise. Recognize then that just as heaven is not a place, neither is hell, for both are states of mind. One creates experiences of peace, love, joy, and abundance. The other can but create experiences of suffering, conflict, pain, and loneliness. Thus, one state of mind is rooted in oneness, while the other is rooted in separation and division. One is experienced from Christ consciousness, yet the other is experienced from a consciousness that only recognizes itself as a separate being, living a separate life, apart from everyone and everything, including God. One is heaven, your true self, the self of oneness created by God. The other is hell, a separate self seeking to survive in a cold, dark, lonely, bitter, and frightening world. A place fraught with evils and unspeakable horrors. Which one you live in is determined by the choices you make in this very moment. For only in heaven are you truly free. Only in living in and from love, from forgiveness, from Christ consciousness are you living in true freedom. Anything else is but an illusion of freedom, and delusions will never satisfy you. For deep within you is truth, and it is this truth, this freedom, for which your heart has so long yearned. Know that when you are triggered and choose to react, you are literally choosing hell for yourself. For you have chosen to be bound rather than to live free, because you will have chosen conflict instead of peace. Although this may at first appear harsh, realize that if you are triggered and you choose to react rather than respond, you have chosen to live a lie rather than living the truth. For you will have chosen the lie of separation, and this lie can only create experiences of hell. Choose then the only choice there is for living freely. Choose forgiveness. Therefore, the next time you become triggered and you have gone through each of the 8 steps, then declare your freedom, for you have accepted the gift of healing, the gift of freedom that you offered yourself. Instead of reacting to the trigger, choose to respond with love, with forgiveness. And each time you do this, you are restoring to freedom within your mind. Thus conclude each trigger incidents with the following truth statements. And those statements are: I have chosen to master what used to trigger me. Freedom has been restored to my mind. I have willingly chose to live in and from Christ consciousness. Today I declare freedom, and I am grateful for the freedom received. Thank you for listening. Peace, love, and joy to all, and to you who listened to this series. May you know your freedom. May you know who and what you are in truth. And may you always remember you are loved, and that you are love itself.